Hey, everybody! It is Monday night, and that means it's time to
talk Lorcana.
Talk some Lorcana. This is for those joining us for the first time. This is our weekly show where we catch up on Lorcana news, meet some awesome guests, and talk all things Lorcana.
We also don't talk Lorcana all week except for Monday night.
That is true.
In this household,
that
no
is
Lorcana
true.
Talk.
I'm sorry, we were a couple minutes late. I apologize. And so, super excited to be here. It always seems like these weeks go by very fast.
Yeah, I know. I was asking you last night, like, what we were gonna do for the stream today, and like, because I was like, oh, it's Sunday, stream's tomorrow night.
Yep. And here we are. A lot of news. To do a couple admin things first, I do want to say, like, first off, we hit a huge milestone last week, and we because one of our subscribers, Stephen Gettle, who has been tracking, our guest appearances, and last week we hit our 100th unique guest on our streams.
What?
In less than a year of doing this, and that actually, out of all the things that we've accomplished, that I think has meant one of the most meaningful milestones to me, because part of our goal here is to create community, to bring people in, to introduce you all, folks watching, to members of the Lorcana community, so you can find other creators perhaps, or players to follow. And so to know that we brought in over 100 folks that we've gotten to talk to and who've appeared on the show is just really cool.
Wait, that really was last week?
Yeah, that was last week.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah. And we're going to bring in 3 new folks tonight. So already part way onto
101,
300.
102, 103.
That's true. I think we're above 100. We're like 102 now.
Oh,
so also huge shout out. Thank you, Stephen Gettle, for the super chat. Really appreciate it as the show started. Channel's not cheap. So I appreciate the support. That means a lot. And thanks for being here every week, Stephen. It's a lot of fun having you here. So we're this week going to talk to some awesome guests. I'm really excited.
I am too.
Yeah.
I'm like kind of fangirling a little bit over who's in the green room right now.
Yeah. So. Some great folks. So some new people to show. We're going to start off bringing in for anybody who's been in the TCG space. Actually, you know what? All of these guests are pretty well known in the TCG space. But one guest, really excited. I got to meet at Atlanta because we were part of the casting team. So really excited to welcome to the show for the first time, Tannon Grace.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Hey Tannon. Thanks for joining us here.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way.
And you almost didn't make it. I understand. Yeah, busy weekend.
I was physically couldn't be here. Yeah, I had a show in Dallas for another game that I cover. And anyone who's seen the Weather Channel or anything the last couple of days, Dallas has been. You could not fly in and out of it. You got lucky if your plane took off. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a crazy weekend.
Yeah.
Well, glad you're here.
Oh, yeah. As am I. This is gonna be fun.
Although you said you were working in Dallas.
Yeah.
Because I have visual evidence that it wasn't all work.
So this was awesome. They had a Nerf set up, and this is like the newest Magic set. It's like set in like an outlaw like wasteland, like cowboys and stuff. And they had a Nerf set where you could shoot down targets and you got prizes. And this was the highlight of my weekend. The goggles really, like the protective eyewear, really sold it.
Yeah, you look very official.
Just so you know, I'm not a very good shot. Just. I'll throw it out there.
Fair. Well, I mean, that game face though, I wouldn't do that. Serious.
Sure.
Anyway, I thought that was fun. There's one more because I want to ask you in a second about Lorcana and your thoughts on Lorcana, having come to the game recently and casted one of the biggest Lorcana events. But before I did that, I have one more picture to show. How many packs of Lorcana have you opened, Tannon?
I think 5 or 6, a very small amount.
5 or 6. And this was your first pack?
Yeah, so it's really funny. Yeah, so at the event, one of the Ravensburger employees gave me a box of the newest set and was like, hey, if you see like a cool cosplayer or you interview somebody, like somebody, just give the packs away, right? And then Sunday, you remember the end of the show, how hectic it was? I had a
Yeah.
few packs left, and I asked the employee, I'm like, what should I do? They're like, oh, just keep them. And they survived all the way till Monday. I'm in my office, and I remember I went onto a website to see like what was in the set, like what's expensive, because like I want to make sure like I know what I'm opening, right? Because like it's a new set, I've been focusing on the first three, and as I'm looking at like what the chase rares are and the coolest things, I open this at the same time, and I do the like comical double take. I'm like. Like, wait, what? and then I message you in the Discord. I'm like, is this good? Like, I think this is good, right? So, better lucky than good.
It's good.
Yep. Great card, great art. I mean, just first pack.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. So
I should never open another pack ever again, right?
Yeah, no. You're 1-1, and your luck is just never gonna improve.
Your pack dollar average is so high right now.
Sure.
So you heard it here. If you're going to be physically in Chicago, bring Tannon your packs of cards.
I will do that
to open.
He's got the magic touch.
Apparently.
Absolutely.
Anyway, before we bring in some other guests, Tannon, I did want to ask, you have a long history in the TCG space, not only playing, but casting, so on the professional side and on the, the casual, on the playing side. And you came to Lorcana fairly recently. What do you think of the game so far?
So yeah, it's been very recent. It's been a whirlwind for me, as you've experienced this firsthand. I'm sure your wife has experienced it secondhand of how just a whirlwind this has been for us. I was very excited to get the gig. I actually like the game a lot. I think it's not that I didn't have good expectations for the game, but I think I like it more than I thought I would, if that comes across the way I want it to. I think the game it's exactly what I want to be. It's very, very easy to learn. And then it's very challenging and it has like a lot of depth to it when you want to play at like, the highest level. Or if you just want to play for fun with your friends, it's a great game for that too. If you like have the characters you like and the decks you like, or if you want to be kind of like our guest later or your guest later on the show, if you want to be like, some of the best in the world, you can go that route too. I'm not there just yet. I'm hoping to catch up to them though.
Yeah. No, I love it. It was really fun, having you at Atlanta, and having you be part of the casting team and interacting with folks. I kind of loved it. There's a lot of Magic and Fab and other TCG crossover into Lorcana, and then having you there to be, part of that. I don't know.
Thank you. You just made me feel really good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I needed that today. I'm exhausted. I've been up for I think like 15 hours or something like that already today. So
oh wow.
Yeah, travel is hell.
well, thanks for being here after all that. So let's bring in one of our other guests. Let's do that now. So happy to surprise people. There, I'm going to surprise Matthew. I should have set it up better. Hi, Matthew.
Hello. How are you?
Matthew, super excited to have you here. For anybody who followed Atlanta, and I'm sure pretty much everybody watching did, Matthew was the runner-up, losing at the very end of that wild deck. That
so crazy.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, for sure.
That's awesome. So overall, how was your Atlanta experience?
So I didn't really even want to play in the tournament initially, and my girlfriend convinced me to play in it, and so I showed up and then I did really well. But I definitely have a lot more respect for Lorcana after playing the event. Like Tannon was saying earlier, the game is pretty simple, and I was initially kind of set aback by that. But it feels like there's a ton of agency when you play Lorcana. You have a lot. It's very rewarding. You have a lot of decisions to make that can just completely turn a game.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I do think, because I was a Magic player too who came over, and when you learn the rules, initially you're like, oh, this is easy. You grasp it so quickly, and without the stack and instant speed interaction and all that stuff, it's like, all right, I get it. But then, even just the decision to ink every turn, you're like, what do I throw away here? And then, 2 turns later, you're like, oh man, I should have kept that, whatever it was, fishbone quill or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. So you took second. You went into it with actually, let's bring up your deck list just so people so we can put everything in context here. So you came in with Ruby Amethyst. Why this deck?
That's like the only cards I really own, and also like the only deck I had played. So
I mean, everybody's
yeah,
got their reason.
yeah. All I've only ever played this deck, and I don't know. I was just very comfortable with it. I like the play patterns a lot. I think it has a lot of outplay potential in terms of like the decision making. Like I think like most of the skill with this deck goes around like knowing what to ink on certain turns and being able to just play very efficiently in terms of your tempo and like never like wasting using your ink and passing like with ink left up. So yeah. And also with Pascal, that's kind of like my tech that I've been doing for a while. I think Pascal's insanely well positioned, and I think more people should play it.
That's fascinating. It is funny because I don't think we saw many Pascals before Atlanta in this deck. I think we saw a lot of, one drop Chernabogs. You sometimes saw like the 1/3 drops, which were Teeth and Ambition targets on turn 2, Rafikis. But then, yeah, Pascal was super fun to see, and it worked out for you.
Yeah, I love the card so much. I've been playing it since set 1 in Ruby Amethyst. I think it's so broken. Like it just makes the mirror so easy. It makes it a cakewalk. Like playing against Ruby Amethyst, you just like slam a Pascal on turn 1, then like a mini on turn 3, and they can just never. You just always win the race.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah. So other than it being the only cards that you owned, how did your journey to the semifinals go? Like, did you any rough matchups? What were you excited to play against? Any players you ran into you knew?
The only player I ran into that I knew was Zan in the top 4, and he's going to be on in a second.
Yeah.
And
spoilers.
Yeah. And that I like played against people who I knew of, but just had never met. But yeah, I mean, going into the tournament, I was pretty okay with playing against everything but Steel Song, and I saw that deck twice. It was one of my 1/1s, like one of my draws in day 1, and then I played against Zan in top 4 on Steel Song. But yeah, every other matchup I felt pretty confident in. Every time I played the mirror, I was just like, okay, it's a free win because I had Pascal. So that was pretty nice.
So you said you weren't originally planning on coming. So how did you prepare, and how long did you prepare for?
I didn't really prepare at all. I maybe played like 3 or 4 games. Like the last time I played Lorcana before the event was in March.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's just in Atlanta, and I'm from Atlanta, so I just decided to play in it.
But, so it was easy to just hop over.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun though.
Yeah. I don't know. That's so funny. You're the second person I've talked to. I was talking to Frank Karsten over, who won Lille, and he had the same kind of thing. He's like, yeah, I wasn't gonna play, and then I last minute decided, to go, and I don't know, I didn't feel like I was gonna do very well, and then I won. So
that's another big connection of mine, by the way. He's a coworker of mine. Like very often, like multiple times a year, we work the same job for another TCG. So we actually talk about Lorcana and stuff all the time. It's actually pretty great to watch him win. I was messaging him the whole time. I was like, you better win or don't come back to work, kind of stuff.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, he did.
Frank Karsten is like an extremely intelligent card game player. He's had a lot of success in other games. So yeah, it's no surprise to me that he just like completely just like jumped over to Lorcana and just won immediately.
So
it's so funny.
I think, something interesting, Matthew, that you can potentially speak to, especially for new players to Lorcana and new players to TCGs, since you don't play Lorcana very often. What skills do you bring to Lorcana that you've like learned in other aspects of your life? Like, what does it take to just kind of show up to Atlanta and come in second place? What sort of skills are you calling on?
In terms of like stuff that doesn't really have to do with just TCGs, I would say like confidence is really important, and also just like, but also not being like overconfident. Like you want to set your expectations and just kind of just play the best that you can in all your games. Like don't get in your head. And then in terms of like other card games, I would say like the most important things to think about are definitely sequencing. Like being able to sequence your cards right can be very important. Like I often see a lot of people they'll like play goat, or sorry, they'll they'll just like sequence stuff with like Merlin and Rabbit incorrectly, stuff like that, where they'll play a card and then draw a card. Like they'll like play a card from their hand and then like sing friends on the other side to draw to, but then you just have less information, right? Because you want to draw two first, so you have more options and you can see what you draw to see what you play. Just stuff like that. There's like very minor sequencing things. If you just like try to like be aware of that kind of stuff, it definitely just like increases your win rate immediately. And also I would say that card advantage is very key, and just like being aware of like what your game plan is. You want to be able to think multiple turns ahead. You want to see yourself to have the best possible outcome in a few turns and have like the most like powerful cards in your hand at that point. Like you don't want to like tunnel vision too hard.
That's great. You do a couple questions from the audience. We'll just hit one. Now that Ursula's returned, so everybody knows that Atlanta was set 3 only without Ursula's return. Now that Ursula's return's out, have you seen cards that you think are well positioned to add to this deck and make it more successful?
There's some good red cards, which honestly this deck was starting to look like it was just like mono purple, but now there's some new red cards that are pretty good. Like Brawl seems very, very good. It's the one that's banished chosen character with cost of 2 or less, or power 2 or less. Sorry. And also I've seen some other cards, like the song, I don't know what it's called, the song that makes them sacrifice something.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what it's called.
I think it costs 4, right?
Yeah, it costs 4. Yeah, that card seems pretty good.
You can remind us what it is here quickly, because that's what live stream chats do. Yeah.
This guy right here. This one's pretty good.
Yeah. And also like the Sisu seems pretty decent. Like especially the 3-drop one. I don't know about the 8-drop one in red purple. Obviously it's really good in red blue. The 3-drop one is it's a 3 mana or 3 ink 1/4. It gets +1 attack for each card in opponent's hands, and it quests for 2, and you can ink it. Seems pretty decent. Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff for this. One thing I will say is this format seems to be very revolved around Bucky. Like I've seen a lot of people on Twitter like complaining about that card, and so I think just having like an evasive package for that kind of deck can be very good. Like I think Pascal actually gets better going into this set. Like if you go 4 Pascal, 4 Crab, it's very easy to kill stuff like Diablo. And also there's the new card Pegasus, which is a 2-cost 3/1 evasive, which also seems decently well positioned against that deck.
It's actually funny. Pegasus was done by the same artist who did Pascal.
Oh wow!
And we saw him at a con a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to him about both the cards, and I was like, Brian, you might have just outdone yourself with Pegasus. Like you just one-upped your other card.
Yeah.
That's the emerald one.
Yeah. The emerald one. Sorry.
One. Yeah. No, it's cute one. It is interesting. I do wonder how good, because we had we had an audience question beforehand, and I want to get our other guest here in a minute, but I'm going to skip through these questions here because somebody asked about Bucky. I wonder if Bucky is the meta's fresh, and I do wonder like how dominant he really is in the long run, or if we're just seeing the effects of like a brand new meta. I don't know. I'm interested in what the chat thinks, because Bucky all over the socials. I don't know. I do think if to the second part of this question, if he had evasive rather than ward, I think he'd be a lot worse.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The ward is just an insane mechanic in the game right now. There's just not a lot of counterplay to that mechanic.
Yep. Yeah, that's the problem. There's just not a lot. Yeah, not a lot to deal with it.
Like I think I saw some tweet a few hours ago that like listed all the cards in the game that can deal with Bucky, and it's like all the ones that cost less than 7 are steel, and everything else is 7 or more. Yeah.
And
was it DeCandio that sent that?
I'm not sure.
He just sent it to me in a DM because I was actually doing a little research for the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, give me something smart to say about the Bucky cards. I can answer this question really well, So, because I'm one of the people that I'm like, the card, it looks really strong and it looks like it's going to dominate. I think you're going to see a lot of people play this deck. I think you're going to see it very well represented in Chicago, especially day 2, once we get to like the top tables more. But I'm also one of the people that like, let's see if, we can find something to beat it. Like, let's let it play out a little bit before we, the sky is falling right away. But I trust all these good players that are saying things. So, I mean, somebody in the chat's talking about it right now.
Yep. Yeah. I will say, it is.
We're going to go back to Ruby Amethyst dominating just everything.
Maybe. Because a lot of the answers from Bucky are in Ruby. But yeah, it is one of those cards. It is. Would we describe it as format warping in that you either play it or you have to plan around it? Is it that oppressive?
Seems that way. I mean, it seems.
Yeah,
like
I feel like blue red is kind of blue red seems to be the most played deck, at least in these early stages, and I feel like that's the case because the format might be like warping around Bucky. So I mean, obviously time will tell. We haven't had one of the like paper events like since the new sets come out, so we gotta wait till Chicago. But yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely very interested to see like what decks pop up, and I still think the format will be like pretty diverse.
Yeah, well, we will, Tannon, we will be there to either virtually or in person to see what that format looks like.
You're virtual, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to physically be there.
Yeah.
It's so much travel these last few weeks.
I know. Well, I'm glad
those airline miles.
Oh, man. Yeah, I feel like, I'm still recovering from Atlanta. I don't know how you, I don't know about you, Aaron.
How recovering from Atlanta?
Yeah. And
I had a busy weekend that weekend, but I'm very different busy weekend.
Just as exhausting though. I don't know, but I can't imagine traveling in between. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's...
Solo momming in the middle of a convention is always a fun experience.
You're the real hero here. You're the one that had the real hard job.
It's true. And big public thank you to Aaron for watching Oli so that I can our daughter so that I could cast. Yeah, because it would have been a completely different experience with my daughter in my lap.
Can I flip the show on you for a second, since you're always the one asking questions? So how was it doing the show, like doing your first big cast for like Lorcana like this, like in that kind of environment, right? Because like I know you have experience on YouTube and like doing some other stuff like that, but like nothing compares to like your first like big show like this, like on a big stage. Were you nervous? Like how was it? Like talk to us about it.
Oh dear. Nobody ever asked me questions on the show.
We got me on the show now. This is my job.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair point. Okay. It was. I have to start and preface right up front with it was an experience of a lifetime. From how do I say this without sounding cheesy? It's gonna sound cheesy. When you start a channel like a YouTube channel or any big project, one of the things that you really ask yourself, right up front is like why? What's the point? What's your mission statement? What is your purpose? Because if you don't have a purpose and you're just doing it for numbers or whatever, then it doesn't feel fulfilling, and the numbers are never enough, right? Like if you asked me, when I started. Liam, would you be happy with 3,000 subscribers? I'd be like, oh yeah, I can't imagine having 3,000 subscribers.
We actually made a bucket list like January of 2023.
Yeah.
Like these are the things we want to accomplish on the channel, and we've accomplished almost all of them at this point.
That's impressive.
Most of them. But like, and I say that because I'm gonna answer your question in a long or about way.
Sure.
But so for us, like the big thing was community. Like we want to build community, we want to connect people. We had this idea that that everybody has different creators, different people that they would resonate with more than others. And so our goal was to be a place where we could bring people together and build community. So to be like in that role, to be one of the people along with, the other casters, like bringing people from outside Atlanta and trying to bring them into that space and connect those two places, wherever anybody was with folks that were in the room in Atlanta. It was a really like it really resonated with me. It was a really special experience, and I enjoyed every second of it. I was nervous going into it, even though I'd done some casting and YouTube live streams and everything. Like nothing really prepares you for sitting in a professional setting with a professional team around you, with you, a professional, and then being thrown into that role for the first time. But I do feel like Brandon and I got our legs under us pretty quickly, and I just had I had a blast. I loved it. But it did feel like a big responsibility. And I don't know. A lot of emotions. It was a lot of fun. I'm excited to do it again, and I hope for anybody watching, I take all your feedback seriously, and I hope that I live up to the position that we've been put into. I don't know.
Great answer, by the way. You nailed it.
But I enjoyed it.
I think getting to do it with Brandon too made it better, because like they had commentated the tournament together before. Actually, the very first I think it was like the second Lorcana tournament to ever get commentated. It was last fall at some point. It was a tournament in Tampa. They spent all day commentating together, and so I think y'all just
the camaraderie helped. Yeah.
It was good practice. But it was fun. But and thanks, big thank you to anybody out there who watched, because that that was awesome.
And I'll say thank you as well. Please keep watching the shows. So yes. Keep doing them. We can keep putting them on. Yeah. And post comments and tell us how much you enjoy it if you do. Even if you don't like it, so we can get better. Just sure. Politely. But let's. I appreciate the question, Tannon. Now I'm all flustered because I'm good.
But let's bring in our next guest so we can riff a bit more and talk about Atlanta. Anybody who followed Lorcana and even a broad a bunch of other TCGs, we're bringing another name of Atlanta. It's Zan Syed. Zan,
Hello.
welcome.
hey.
Hello, what up?
Zan finished in the top 4 in Atlanta and would have made it to the finals, but ran into a stone wall.
That guy right there.
What happened, Zane? You couldn't win? Come on. The last time you and I played Atlanta, you won the tournament. You had to beat me to get there. You couldn't do the same to Matt. Come on.
I mean, he's a great player, and 4 minis is pretty tough.
Yeah. And you all are, if it's not clear, to people watching, you all are friends and, have played each other a bunch. So
yeah, we have.
Before I ask about your deck, what's it like, in a major event like this, being, especially in the top 64, where it's like, do or die, single elimination. What's it like running into a friend or an acquaintance?
Well, it just kept happening. Our side of the bracket was just all friends. I had to play against Kendall Burdett for top 8, and that was not fun because we'd been grinding all these tournaments since that one, and then Matt and I had to play in top 4. I was just happy that we were leapfrogging each other to the end. And it's a great showing. The real test is going to be nationals, right? Now we get to kind of test together and prepare, hopefully be on the same side for a bigger tournament,
Yeah. No, I agree. Here's a shot of you. Is this like a Da Vinci, like a Leonardo da Vinci, like kind of?
Yeah.
Michelangelo. Yeah.
I had just grasped the Mickey, and I was like, okay, now I know where to go in the convention center to get the picture.
Yeah. It's a great shot. Great. If you don't follow any of these folks, you should, but Zan in particular, great pictures and stuff from the weekend. So that was fun. So this is what you ran. You were, there's been a couple decks that have been dominant, since like set 1. Ruby Amethyst was one, which you just talked about. And I think Steel Song is the other. Why Steel Song?
There are multiple reasons, but I would say the main reason why is because of that card right there, Sleepy Flute. I felt like purple red and blue red were going to show up in large numbers, and I felt like this version of the deck just dominated that matchup. My blue red matchup had gone up to like 60 something percent and over like 200 matches, and then my purple red matchup was 70%, 73 something percent over 200 matches. So I was like, okay, if these are the decks I'm like, if these are the decks I want to beat, I'm gonna have a great time. The other side thing was Thea in the Thea tournament, Green Steel had just won. Green Steel discard from set 3 had just won, and I knew I had like a 70% matchup against that as well. So I felt like there were the 3 most expected decks to show up, especially in the later rounds. Like I like to prepare for tournaments thinking about after I win the first 3 rounds, what does the tournament shape up to be? And I felt like those were the decks that I was most likely going to play against, and I tuned my deck to beat those.
It's fascinating, and it performed well. You know what's funny? This is random, but it's funny. We were talking about Frank Karsten earlier, and he won, Lille with a Steel Song deck.
Yep.
And just quick plug, for those who are watching on Twitter or anywhere else, if you're not subscribed, head over to the YouTube channel, subscribe. We got an interview with Frank coming out. I hope maybe tomorrow if I can get it done.
Wow.
But we had a great interview with him. He talked all about his Steel Song deck. So we're posting that tomorrow. But he was down on the flute.
Yeah, he was actually,
which is funny. And I'm not saying that to say that your opinion of flute is wrong. What I love about that is like you clearly top 4 and we're like this close to winning Atlanta, and you have Frank Karsten with a Steel Song deck with a slightly different build, who won in Lille. And it just to me highlights how complex, the meta is, at least set 3 was, where even, when you look at tournament results and you see Steel Song, Ruby Amethyst, those decks are potentially very different and play very different, whether it's, Matthew bringing in the Pascals into like the Ruby Amethyst mix, or like you on the flutes versus Frank off the flutes.
I think he had 2 still in his deck.
He did 1.
Oh, really? Was
2
that
or
one of
1?
his one-ofs?
Yeah, and then he was like, or maybe it was 2, but he was like, I hated him. Oh, it was 2. And he's like, I hate him. I would get rid of him next time around. It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, so in a game like this, you have to think about, like I've stood behind like at least 100 players at this point, and I would say 99 of those players, both of us didn't make the same decision. So if I'm watching them and they're making decisions and I'm making decisions, both of us didn't make the same decisions. All of us, like Matt, Tannon, Frank, all come from a Magic background, and so we're more likely on the same wavelength of making decisions a certain way. And so that's more important than the deck list of let's say our deck lists are 55 of the 60, right? As the main picture is still the same. And so if I had to guess, we're making decisions probably closer to like 95% exactly the same. And that's what I think separates us from the rest of the pack, not actually the deck list. I think that's like a major misconception that people are having, is like how important the deck list is. It's actually the play. And I would say Yellow Steel is the most difficult deck to play, mainly because of one card, and that's Whole New World. Because Whole New World is one of those cards where you can give your opponent a bigger advantage than yourself, right? Like there's no other card in the game that can like really like hand over what do you call it? Hand over the meter of where we're standing, right? Like, am I winning or are they winning? And then all of a sudden you Whole New World when you didn't want to. And then so that's the main thing. I would say Be Prepared is the second card because you could wrath your own board, but that's like kind of harder to do than Whole New World.
Yeah, fascinating, interesting. So how we asked Matthew how he prepared, and I think the answer was I really didn't. How did you prep for Atlanta?
How did I prep for Atlanta? I just played on Pixelborn. I just played a crap ton, and I was pretty set on Amber Steel just because I liked my matchup spread, and I didn't feel like my worst matchup Blue Red was the only deck. Like I didn't feel like I needed to just narrow in on one deck. I felt like this deck punished a bunch of just character only decks like purple, emerald, purple. So
That's
yeah,
the best deck.
And I will say that the fact that people are like doing well with like the same color combinations, but like playing way different card choices, just kind of speaks to the fact that like that Lorcana is a game that even in just set 3, like there's like a million different ways that you can build decks and still like do very well, which I think is a very good sign for the game.
Yeah, I mean the fact that there's really only about like 615 card options, you know, and there's already such diversity. Like I can't imagine what these conversations are going to be like in 5 years, you know, when we're on set. I guess what is that, 20?
I don't know. I can't math.
Yeah, set 20
I
and
can't math
5
in
years
public.
5 years into the game. Like that's just, it's really exciting, and as a casual player for me kind of scary a little bit, but
Yeah.
having too many options.
Yeah.
But
I do like the weird splashes, and I was gonna pilot a amethyst emerald deck to the top 4 with a Kuzco in it just to prove it as a one-off. But yeah. So speaking of that, what
you were gonna make it to the top 4? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
I was not. No, but I maybe I was gunning for a let it go or something. But I don't know. I was gonna.
No, I
try.
believe. I
gonna
believe.
try
I
my
think
best.
you could have done it. You did really well in our locals.
Yeah, it's smaller. Emerald Amethyst is my favorite color combo, and I'm a little bummed. I think I'm scared to play it now because of Sisu. Like that's really the only card that's scaring me. Is Sisu Ice Block. Like I think that's gonna wreck.
It's better than ever. It's like literally sitting right behind me. It's
Really?
right there. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Noted. You're gonna have to send me your bill.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, it's my favorite color combo. It's so good. Tempo is my thing. I can't do control, and I'm not smart enough to play Steel Song. So there we go.
No, that's not true. You could just watch a video.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah, don't we have a video on that?
We do.
We have a video for that.
I believe, yeah.
We do.
I believe you can pilot it.
We do. I just never
You can do anything, Liam, if you just try.
So speaking of the meta, like, so what do we think about Ursula's return? General question for all. What do we think the meta in Chicago is going to look like? I don't know. What do y'all think?
Diablo.
Go everywhere.
So I posted 3 videos. I posted I said the best deck in Lorcana, and I said that was green steel. And then the second deck I posted was blue red. And the reason why I did that was because I knew that blue red was going to be the obvious best deck, and I felt like everybody was going to be like really down on blue red. And so I wanted to just say, hey, green steel is the best deck, because I wanted people to have an answer to combat blue red. And now kind of the opposite ended up happening, where now people are like, Bucky needs to go. But if Bucky went and we were all playing only against blue red, I don't think that would be a great time either. So right now we have like a tug of war, and we need to make it a rock paper scissors, and that's gonna be super exciting.
Which do you think is gonna be the that third deck?
Honestly, to my surprise, testing has been going pretty well with the Ruby Amethyst. I don't know how it survived. I thought it was dead, and it just keeps coming back. But yeah, Wochuk, another hardcore pixel-born grinder, messaged me this list, and I was like, all right, let me try it out. Played 3 games right before this, and I was like, oh my god, this deck is back. It's just won't ever die. So
I'm looking up a meme from citizens here.
Oh gosh.
On yeah, this is all, I mean, to your point, this is all I saw today. I remember.
That's so accurate. That's that's the best.
It just won't disappear. Anyway, yeah. What are your thoughts, Matthew? Except you aren't playing in Chicago, are you, Matt?
No, I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
I think Ruby Amethyst is like here to stay. I mean, I just think the deck is very good and will always be like just a solid choice. Like it's just kind of like the mid-range deck of the format. Like it has like a minimum like 45% matchup and good way against most decks. So like if you're a good pilot, you can always like do well with it.
Yeah. Let's see. The cockroach. Yeah, everybody. Cockroach of Lorcana. It just doesn't go away. Yeah. Emerald Ruby. Somebody, Nicholas here saying,
oh wow.
Emerald Ruby's the meta breaker.
Um, I have a close friend named Jeremy, who day one was just like Emerald Ruby, and so I tried a couple of different iterations, and I'm sorry to say that I think it has like below 1% chance. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
I really don't believe in that color combination right
That,
now.
I don't
that's
know
so
when that one
Jeremy.
deck shows up that
Jeremy's so big
nobody's
on
ever
that
seen
deck.
before.
Yeah, it's not worth it's not worth it. It's not real.
Yeah, that's crazy. So are there any so what you're saying is there's no you all don't anticipate any rogue decks coming out in Chicago like we saw in Atlanta. Um,
They'll be
other than
played. We'll see
those
if
sleeper.
they make it. Yeah, that's a big. I mean, look, it makes my job easier. I'd love it if we get like a rogue deck or two. That makes my job a lot easier than talking about the same deck, all day
Mhm.
long. Which I think is going to happen quite a bit, especially on day two and stuff. But um, I really agree with what Zan said. I love the idea of people are worried about this deck being good when they should be thinking about it differently. Like it's good that we now have another contender for like best deck and another contender for best deck. And the best formats that I've ever played in competitive TCGs are exactly what he said. They're rock, paper, scissors. And then the 5% really matters. The work that these two guys put in when they're in the lab for, hundreds and hundreds of game stuff, that's where you see them break from, and separate from the players that are just putting in, time in their locals. Nothing wrong with that. Like not all of us have time to do all that. But this is where you see the good get separated from the great when you have like the fairish formats. And if that happens, I think Lorcana is going to like shoot off. I think it's going to be amazing. I mean, it already is, obviously, but I think the format's going to be in a great place. That was one of my favorite things from Atlanta was, walking around and I just wouldn't see like too many mirror matches. I wouldn't see the same matchup over and over again. We had a great diverse top eight, players and decks. I think the game's in a good spot here. And then until you prove me wrong here, I won't be, oh no, this guy is falling. And it's kind of this happens. We get an echo chamber a lot in social media and in gaming where if one person's like, oh my God, Bucky's so good, everybody's like, you know what? He's right. Or they're right. Bucky is really good. It's going to be a problem. And so let's see if it actually is first. I mean, it's going to be very good. I think the deck's going to be good. So I expect to see a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do wonder how much it is the initial echo chamber. I for those who have been remember Rise of the Floodborn when that came out, and like all of a sudden the popsicle decks became all the rage, and Harem Flaversham shot up to like $15 as a rare, a starter deck rare, before everything calmed down. But yeah, I don't know. The other thing about the rock paper scissors meta, to your point about like those little nuanced differences, it just reminds me back to the beginning of the conversation to kind of beat a dead horse a little bit. What Matthew was talking about with mixing in the Pascals and how that helps in the mirror. I love when you do have a clearly defined meta like that. I mean, I love a broad, diverse meta, but I do like the rock paper scissors meta, or maybe a quad meta, where there's just like these nuanced differences that players discover. You're like, I'm going to put in Pascal here, or I'm going to put in Yzma's at the top end instead of something else, or like one spell book. I watched a tournament in Houston where Bobby Brake, former Kaijudo champion, was playing Aaron Rubin, also known as Lorcana Bro, and Bobby Brake won the mirror in the finals because of one sorcerer spell book that he teched in for the mirror, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was made the difference, and it's so cool to see that. So anyway, yeah, to echo your point.
Yeah, sideboards are baked into your main deck in this game. I really liked Matt's deck, and with the evasiveness, you kind of got to see someone else like Zach Bivens, who was playing like a lot. Like he took that theory to the next level of like playing what was that?
Cricket, Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, Jiminy Cricket, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that he was number one after Swiss, or number three, somewhere in the top.
Yeah.
Top amount, and so you can see that like the theory of like how good are evasives, and we know that flyers and magic are a whole archetype, especially in draft, that it was like translating well all the way to the finals for Matt. So it made a lot of sense.
It's someone who is like, like I'm way newer to this game than y'all are. And I was like blown away. Like Evasive looked good, in theory, in like the few games I played. And then specifically you, Matt, like watching you play, like having the evasives and like, you know, just or how good Mini was in so many games. I was blown away. I didn't think the cards would have that big of an impact, and I was floored at how good they were and how much the game just revolved around them. And we're getting, you know, a couple more in the new set and stuff. So, I mean, I think that's the thing that we're going to see more of in the future, possibly too.
Yeah, evasive is pretty powerful. I mean, obviously it'll calm down as the card pool increases because there'll be better answers. But for now, it seems very, very strong.
Yeah, like speaking of evasives, a card that a lot of people have been sleeping on for this next set is the new 3-drop Peter Pan with Rush. You guys should strongly consider playing that card because it sneaks up on Diablo. 2/3 Rush that gives your evasive characters Rush. And so I've been playing it in purple green, and something super cool about it is like you can often rush out a Diablo and attack like a Cinderella or an Ursula, and it stays alive, and you end up getting the effect earlier of drawing a card, which is quite nice. So I think this card is going to see a decent amount of play, and I think that red purple should be playing at least 2 copies, just to have more answers against a Diablo.
Interesting.
Yeah, this card seems great. I have never seen this card.
Yeah, it's brand new.
From a flavor perspective, it's the partner to Pan's Shadow, which is the same except it's flipped with the evasive and the rush.
And Shadow's cool. 4 mana, right? Or
yeah.
4, yeah.
Matt, you keep running into the hardest part of my job.
I know.
That is actually the hardest part of my job is not saying mana or saying the colors, like saying the right words or saying yeah.
No, that is a challenge. Tap. We even had somebody say sacrifice earlier. Yeah, it's a
challenge. Oh, that's a big no-no. That's a big no-no.
Really? Dang. That might have been me.
Yeah. Which you understand. I mean, you know, for anybody watching, when you hear us cast, like it is. I mean, it's obviously super important in any game to use the correct terminology, but you know, it is a family-friendly game, and we want to make sure that we're using the proper terms, and yeah, so it's very important. But it's tough after years. It's tough to train out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. I'm in training.
Yeah. I have to switch my brain. I don't know if you like Liam. Have you ever had this before where you've done one game into another and you have to like? It literally feels like I have to like, you know, turn the page into a different game because, you know, we have characters instead of creatures or heroes or minions. You know, we've had or you know whatever in other games. You know, we like you said, it's a family-friendly thing, so we don't say kill, we don't say like attack. You know, it's challenge, it's banish, it's you know we don't destroy anything, and you know for good reason. You know, there's a reason for all this, and it's just a step that we have to go through. And as Matt has seen multiple times tonight, it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
No, it is not, but important, and we're all in training. Yeah, no, I like that card a lot. I do get Pan's Shadow is a card I'm always excited to see in decks because it leads some really like unpredictable I don't know interactions and surprises, and so yeah, I hope you're right, Zan. I hope that Peter Pan works his way in.
Yeah, Peter Pan has a higher chance just because the purple 4 slot is so competitive. You got Rabbit, and then not only do you have Merlin Rabbit, you still have Goat, and those are 2 hard to replace cards in purple shells.
That's true. That's a good point. All right.
Oh yeah, you also have Queen's Castle, so that's like 12 to 11 slots. It's so many.
Also, it's uninkable, and I feel like red purple is one of those decks that it's like I want to minimize the number of non-inkables I have. Like I think red purple over like most decks is like you really want to go low on non-inkables because you have a lot of card velocity, and because of that you want to be able to hit your inks every turn.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a fair point. What is your ideal number of uninkables in a deck?
I think I was playing 12 in mine, 12 or 13, which is on the low end for red purple. I think they usually play like 14 or 15.
Would you get nervous playing the traditional like 15?
Yeah, I think I lost. I mean, I lost like both my finals games because like game 3 I had like 2 Be Prepares and 2 Pinocchios, and those were my 4 cards in hand, and I just passed with 6 ink up, and it's like it definitely came back to bite me. Just with 13, like I don't know. I would probably go down a bit.
Yeah, I'm
honestly.
at 12 right now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine going higher than 12 right now.
It makes
Yeah.
me super nervous when I'm playing. Like if I see my opening hand, I see multiple unequals, I get worried.
Well,
I will
I will.
say
Go ahead.
I will say that Yzma was completely amazing, and I
Yeah.
probably will add another one in. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Back over here.
I think just like I think it provides enough utility. Obviously, it doesn't have the same ceilings as Tremaine or Medusa, but it provides a similar function and also provides more functions in that you can target your own stuff to try to catch up in a game. And and the fact that it's inkable is just very nice, like very, very efficient, very nice to use in all my games.
You're also playing an aggressive angle, so the tempo that Yzma
Yep.
provides is super nice, especially against like something like a Tamatoa.
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah, that's like exactly one of the threats. Like that's one of the prime examples of it. Like because Tamatoa is one of those cards that's very hard for me to deal with. I mean, I just usually just be prepared it, but you know I don't want to lose my board. So being able to just Yzma and just tempo play and then have it something that quests for 2 is very nice.
Yeah, when I was looking over your deck, I was like, dang, it's really smart that you're only playing 3 be prepared. I was like, dang it.
Yeah, I noticed that your curve is a lot better than some of the other versions of this I saw. Was that like a thing that you actually specifically kind of targeted when you were making your deck, Matt?
Yeah, I just wanna curve out really quickly and just try to race as quickly as possible. And then like by the time we get to the late game, I'm already at a healthy lead that I can have time to deal with their things and just close out the game.
Yeah, and for anybody watching, I'm sure everybody knows, but for anybody new to TCG's, curve out basically means you're playing a card every turn. On turn 1, you have a 1 cost. On turn 2, you have a 2 cost. Turn 3, you have a 3 cost, etc. And you're not leaving anything on the table as far as resources goes. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Yep.
I was actually going to do that. Good job.
Yeah. I'm getting ready for Chicago.
There you go.
For the time. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. What's up with that one Chernobog's followers there? I have to ask.
I wanted 9 1-drops, and I don't think Mini and Olaf are very good. So I just played 1 Chernobog's because I think Rafiki is like completely necessary. I mean, it's very good against Zan's deck, obviously. Yeah. And yeah, I think the 1/3s are only really super good, or not super good, but like only really better than a card like Pascal against Steel Song. And Steel Song wasn't that big of a meta share, so I wasn't too worried about it. Just because like it doesn't die to like let the Storm Rage on and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, the 1/3s are just not as good, and I'd rather have the utility of Chernobog's. Also, Chernobog's hits into Rafiki's for the mirror. So if you have a Pinocchio on turn 2, you can kill Rafiki with the Chernobog since it's a 2/1.
Yeah, it is interesting. The 1/3s, when I see them played on turn 1, I'm generally expecting that deck to be running Teeth and Ambitions.
Yeah, I've seen so many lists that don't play Teeth but play the 1/3s, and I don't like that very much.
Do you think that speaking of Pinocchio, do you think there's a chance that you play less of them or cut it all together with Brawl coming into?
Yeah, there's probably a decent chance. I will say like Pinocchio is like probably one of the most polarizing cards in the deck, just because like it's either the best card that I could possibly have or it's the worst card I could possibly have. Like it's never anything in between. Like that's like the reason I play 2, because it's just like it carries so many matchups, but also it can just be completely dead in others.
If it was inkable, it'd be another thing, but
if it was inkable, it'd be a slam dunk 4-0.
Yeah, exactly.
You like the best card.
I think them choosing what's inkable and not inkable in this game is so awesome. Like, you could talk for hours about it. Like this card, I'm like, you cannot make this card inkable, like at all. Yeah, because it would just be this color for like all of time. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. I was saying sorry.
I was gonna say it is interesting. Somebody asked. I'm gonna remember this like 75%. So, but the core of the story is the same. Somebody was talking to, I believe it was Steve Warner, about like sideboards, and they referred to non-inkables. They're like, non-inkables are kind of your sideboard in this game, because the core of the deck stays the same, and then you're really figuring out, the way they described it. I think it was. I'm not 100%. It was Steve, so don't tell him I said this, but yeah, because you're really trying to figure out what to put that in those uninkable slots, and that's kind of where a lot of the art of this game comes in.
I actually see it kind of the other way. I more so see it that like the inkables are more of your sideboard cards, because like cards like Benja and like 5-drop beast, the one that kills items. Like just cards like that just like make it, and even like Teeth and Ambitions, just cards like that make it so Lorcana that has no need for a sideboard, which is great. Because you have cards that you ink in certain matchups and that you never ink in other matchups, you know?
Oh, that's fair. That's a good point.
I think it's also good for keeping another barrier of entry down and getting into the competitiveness of the game. If you added sideboards to this game, it's just another hurdle for players to have to learn. I mean, if we go back to Magic, I probably didn't feel comfortable sideboarding Magic for about the first 6 years of my career. And then even then I was like, okay, I think I'm all right at it now. And like, I mean, even Zan, when he and I would play together, I remember having long talks with him about a deck that we played the same deck in a tournament once, and like we talked for like hours about how to sideboard a matchup and something. And like that's very, you can do that now in this game, but like Matt said with the Inkable Sun, I think it's awesome that we don't have to have that extra step too,
But what about the sideboard guides?
Oh man, you gotta make $5 somehow, Zan.
I'm just trolling.
No, of course.
Yeah, it is funny. Speaking of sideboards, I don't want to say it's polarizing, but you get the debate rear up every now and then where experienced players are like, I want sideboards or I don't want sideboards, and people go back and forth. And I really do think this game is just fine without them.
I agree.
For a variety of reasons. And it leads to some of the beauty of the game where you run into these like weird meta calls sometimes in these tournaments where folks have really studied, the meta and then made those right calls, whether it's, the one-off spell book or whatever. I don't know. It's just more fun to me.
Agreed. I think it's awesome. Like it surprised me when I first found out, like when I came to the game, and then I played my first couple games and I was like, yeah, this just makes sense. The people making this game are very, very smart. It's in very good hands.
Yeah. Google Boomer saying, yeah, sideboards are lame. Just build your deck better. Thanks, Googly. Side boring. That is true. I do. We're running short on time. Actually, before I get to audience questions, I have one question of my own because we skipped around it. The one deck that we didn't talk about that I see in a lot of tournaments is Sapphire Steel. And I don't think we've talked about that at all. Is that going to be well represented in Chicago, do you think? Is it well positioned?
Yeah, it is. It is one of the decks that I think might be I would think that blue red is probably the paper. No, is it the rock?
You're going too deep in this, Zan. You're putting too much mental energy in this.
Yeah, I'll give it the rock, and then I will say that green steel is the scissor. So we need a paper. And I would say the paper could be either blue steel, red, purple. I think that green purple fits into the same exact slot that green steel fits in. And I think there's only like one of those will emerge victorious. Most likely, my bet is on green steel, but I would like purple, green to have its room. It's just green steel is with Ursula is just so tough. So tough. But yeah, so I think blue steel has a chance. I don't know which version is gonna. I just think Whole New World is just like you just have such a huge disadvantage against blue red, and I'm having trouble overcoming that. Basically.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I hope. Well, anyway, I can't see it. I can't wait to see Chicago and what pops up. So let us get to one or two viewer questions before we have to go. This is one that I always like because I know we have a lot of folks, coming into Lorcana who are trying to improve their game and trying to get to the level that you all are at. I think the question's broader than this, but what are the best ways, if you're a player, let's say you've played some Lorcana, you've been around for a few sets now, you've played in a few events, league or whatever. How do you take your game to the next level?
I would say play the game is probably the most important. I mean, I think it can obviously be very beneficial for a bunch of people to like watch other people play, but you're not going to be able to replicate that unless you play a bunch. Like you really want to get your own games in so you can get a feel for it. Like you can listen to as much as you want, but like if you're not like playing the game a bunch, like I don't think you're going to be able to achieve what you want.
I'm gonna say I completely agree with that. I will say I'm going to say, oh my god, this is so hard to say, but ego, you gotta remove your ego. All right. So if you can remove your ego and like, let's say you play against an opponent and you win or you lose, doesn't matter. You ask them, hey, did you see anything that I could have done better? That's going to give you a lot of answers, and you have to be willing to take that criticism. And then that's just going to make you jump so much, like you're going to jump miles ahead of your local scene, and that'll give you a better chance at the bigger tournaments.
I agree with everything they said. I think everybody learns slightly differently too. So like finding your sweet spot helps a lot. For me, once I get like a foundation of the game, I make sure I surround myself with good players if I want to get better at the game, right? Like if I want to get really good. And then I try to find somebody that's either equal skill to me or better and just like jam into them a lot. And like, and then the biggest thing that the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody is when you're learning, ask why. Like, don't just have someone tell you do this in this situation. Be like, why? Like, why am I inking this in this matchup and then holding it in this other one? Like Matt was talking about earlier, I always ink this card in this matchup, and in some matchups it's really, really good. And it's like, why is that? And you're like, oh, well, like they always do this, or learning how to play around, be prepared, etc. And stuff like that. Just those little things could go a long, long way in finding out why you do stuff instead of just knowing that this is good.
Wow. I love it. All good answers. I do. I love all of that. I love interrogating your opponents too and asking, about what you could have done better. We get one more question. Actually, it's a two-parter, and then we'll do sign-offs and close it out. All right. So this is a little bit more, from one of our Twitter followers, a little bit more about distribution and product releases. So a little less about gameplay, but what do you all think about well, actually, take it back. This is actually a little of both. So what do we think about the release of some more meta-defining cards, like in terms of this set? I think we've answered a bit of that already, but if anybody has any closing thoughts on that one. But then to the second question, I think is the more interesting one that we haven't addressed yet, which is what do you think Ravensburger can do to appeal to both competitive and the casual player base? And maybe even, is there a distinction between the two? Are they hitting the right balance?
I'll go first. I'll answer the second part first. I do think there's definitely a difference. We'll see more of a delta as the game goes longer of competitive versus casual. And I hate saying it that way because it sounds so like derogatory, like we're like it's a loom. But having a like casual way to play the game, maybe like a group way to play, because the cards are worded in ways that like it's not meant to just be played one-on-one. So like there's ways to do that. To answer the first question that's up here, and we've talked about this a lot, but I've always been in an impression, and we talked about, does something need to be done about Bucky? Is that going to be the first card that gets banned or affected in some way in this game? Because we have that happen in a bunch of other games. I would rather a company that's making card games like this make mistakes, right? Like make cards that are really powerful that make us have these conversations and test our skills to see if we can beat them and do whatever, than one that never makes a mistake ever, because that game's boring. That game is not good and it's not challenging.
I love that so much. I have thoughts, but I'll let
Sure.
Matt and Zan chime in here.
I completely agree with what Tannon said in terms of like wanting the company to challenge us with the cards that they print. I think that's very important because players will always complain that like stuff's too broken or something like that, but then they'll also a lot of people will also complain when stuff gets boring or stale. So like you're never going to be able to please everyone. But I think more players lean towards the lines of excitement when it comes to card games, and I think that's what this game's kind of bringing right now. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that portion with both of the guys. But I will say about the competitive and casual base, I think that in other games, we've said that they're two different parties and kind of like pitted them against each other. And I think that competitive is always going to be a minority. And as like you see the top the players become better and better and separate themselves, it will always like the competitive side will always lose. I think that the best thing that this game has done is that there's one main way to play and everybody is invested in trying to become better at that way to play. And it reminds me of chess, and like all of us striving to be better. I don't think that I'm the best player in the game, and I'm just trying to get a percent better with every time I play. So
That's great. I do like how, and you can take that, one-on-one. So what I think you're saying is, the one-on-one and the way the rule set that you use is like the primary way to play. But what I like about the two is you can take that, you can pick that up, and you can do it in a fun 2v2 format or an Ursula's Return. It's the same game. It's just versus, or against, the board in a cooperative setting. So, yeah, I don't know. I like that. Tanner, you said something really interesting that I was going to riff off of, and I forget. Oh, taking risks.
Yeah.
I love, one of my favorite parts about spoiler season, every time it comes around, is there are these cards that everybody goes nuts over. They're like, it broke the game. And then that card ends up being not good. You know, like Belle, the archer in Floodborne, everybody saw that card and they're like, this is broken. It's going to break the game. And then nobody played it.
Perfect.
Then,
that's a perfect example. I remember asking, I'm really good friends with Brendan Candy, and I was like, how is this card not good? And he's like, yeah, like he just explained exactly what you're saying. He's like, yeah, it looks great,
Well, and Jafar, this set, the Wheel Jafar, illusionist, or I forget his title. But everybody thought that was going to break the game, and he sees play, right? And there's some decks built around him. There are a few Jafar Wheel decks, in Atlanta, but like didn't break the game. And so every time spoiler season comes around, we see these cards and we're like, this is busted. And then, and then it's good, but
I'm immune to it now at this point. I'm too old.
I mean, we should always think about it like the meta is the environment, and even a card that is great just alone, it's either it's gonna die or thrive in specific environments. And Beast was a great example in set 3, but look at Beast now, sitting at the table with the top deck.
Yeah. Anyway, this was fun. I could talk to you all night long, but we do need to wrap up here soon. We've got, we've all got places to be. Tannon had a long weekend, and some of us are going to get ready to go tune into this weekend. So before we do that, I have to say, before I go around and ask you all how people can follow you, this is a privilege. You all are some of the players that I follow, in this game, and I was super excited to cast your games, Matt and Zane, and in Atlanta. So getting to sit here and talk with you about your thoughts on this game is just a privilege. So thank you so much for joining us. And Tannon, always a pleasure. And I can't wait to work with you again next weekend.
It's going to be fun, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thanks for having me as well.
So on that note, from top to bottom, Tannon, I'll start with you. How can people follow you, what you're doing, and any closing thoughts?
Can't wait for Chicago. I'm excited to see new cards, new decks. Easy way to follow me right there, Twitter. At the Tannon Grace. That's pretty much the only social thing I use. So there you go. I'm an old man.
Yeah. Zane, how about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Zan_Syed, and YouTube Zan Syed. So, hey.
There you go. Great videos too.
Go and follow that right now, by the way.
Yeah. See. Oh my goodness. See, that's what you should do. I left that unsubscribe just so I could do that.
Nice.
Subscribe.
Let's go.
And hit the bell. There you go. Matthew, how about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at MC Wright _.
The underscore throws me off every time I'm searching for your name. And Twitter is very particular about spelling. So
the best pictures ever for a card player, by the way. I don't know if it's been. I've always loved your Twitter picture. It's so.
It's a picture of me. It's a picture of me very upset during a feature match.
Yeah, because the thing is, Zan, I know you can feel this, and Liam, you too. We've all been here. You see this, and you're like, I know that face. I've made it many times.
Yep. It's been your opponent top deck, be prepared in a row or
tilting.
Yeah. Just want to flip this table.
And since we're here, we'll just take a look. There's all the goodness, man. with the Pascal and the Minnie Mouse up above to kind of flank. And look at my goodness, is that the foiling on the mat?
Yeah.
Bonkers.
Beautiful Rapunzel foil mat.
Bonkers good.
So you're not going to be there this weekend. I might get to mess with those this weekend, Liam. I might do the top 8 announcement this time. That's the plan for now. And so I might be handing out the goods. I might accidentally lose one, forget where one is or something maybe. But
send me.
Yeah. Okay. It's in the mail.
That's fantastic. I just want to like see one in person because I didn't get to do it. And
Zan let me take a picture with his, and then I put it in like my like local Discord, and all of my Lorcana people was like, "Oh my god, it's so awesome!" They were, yeah.
And somebody, one of you, let like Google your Mickey.
That was me.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Liam is immediately sad he won't be there. Yes, that is true. Well, anyway, thank you all, so much for joining me again. This was so much fun, and I hope you have all of you back, especially after Chicago, to kind of talk through what we saw. For anybody who's here, we do this every Monday night. If you have any ideas, guests you want to see, feel free to let us know on Twitter. Jump in our Discord server, let us know and help shape the episode. If you're watching on Twitter or anywhere really, go ahead and pop over to YouTube and hit subscribe. We have a few videos coming out this week. We have a box battle and an interview with Frank Karsten, the winner of Lorcana Challenge Lille, which should be a lot of fun. So thank you all for watching. Until next week.